Hello there. I've been asked to deliver some flanks for preparation.
You have found choice cuts to exceed many of our hunters' finest takings.
Yes, you're not one of our hunters, but you've found some good flanks. Is this the luck of a beginner? Or have you hunted prey in far off lands, and the hearts of the woods edge just the latest? Well, probably the latest, considering the quest I've been sent on in the past. Well done, my friend. You're welcome to Holdfeast, for there is much that needs doing. Ask around, and you'll find no shortage of tasks, I'm sure. But it is the tradition of our hunters not to depart immediately upon returning from a successful hunt, and I do not ask you to do otherwise. I will salt and prepare these steaks, and while I do that, you should speak to the men and women of the village and listen to their stories. One such as you must have heard many tales from wandering in the distant lands, but I assure you that ours are unique. Legend hangs heavily upon every tree and rock in these vales, and whispers tell that even creatures out of myth can be found among the mists. There is a magic about the vales of Anduin Pineleaf. Listen to the tales of my people, and I challenge you to say otherwise. All right, I'll listen to a few tales here and there. Let's see. Geofrida, Eric, and Mavi. Hmm. About down his way. And here we have Mavi here, who she's apparently heard many tales, but probably hasn't participated in many yet, considering her age.
I love hearing stories.
Maybe I underestimated her age. That's a rather husky voice. Hello there, friend. I have not seen you around Hultfeast before. You look to be younger than I am. I am nearly a woman grown. Nearly? What? Oh, you say you are not a child, but a hobbit instead? I've never heard of a hobbit before. Well, tell me about yourself and from where you hail, or I'll see you brought out of town and left in the woods. Yes, I'm from a place called the Shire, and there are hobbits around that live there. I love hearing stories. Yes, I do. And I love telling them too. You say that you live in a burrow in the ground. That's a little like the tales I've heard of the hole dwellers that once lived in the Vales. They were a small people, even smaller than you, I'd say, and they were Shire and tricksy. They would vanish at first approach. Imagine being able to move around without being seen or heard. But even more stealthily than that, yes. Now, that is what it would have been like with these hole dwellers I'm talking about. My mother says that she heard fairy stories about the hole dwellers when she was a little girl, but none of them have been seen in hundreds and hundreds of years, if not longer. She heard that folk used to leave food and trinkets for them on the river banks, and that sometimes when they went back to check, the gifts would be gone. Do you know what? If you were just a little smaller, I would almost think you're related to one of the hole dwellers. But these days, they are just a myth, and you're flesh and blood, so I suppose that isn't possible. Oh well, I wonder where they went. Have you heard anything about them in your own land? What do you call it? The Shire? Yes, I think perhaps they perfected the art of hiding, and now no one can find them. I'd wager they're still somewhere in the Vales, just waiting for a child smarter and clever enough to find them. I hope that's me. Yes, 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 I do. Now, if the stories I've heard about Schmeagol are true, they were hobbits, even if I'm not keen on admitting that relationship. And by relationship, I mean with Schmeagol, not with the local hole dwellers. Hello there.
Legends and stories. Aye. We here in Holtby's have our fair share of the things.
Yes, I myself have seen enough to believe most of what they say about the lands hereabout. And if you spend some time here, I do not doubt you will too. Have you heard tell of the maiden that walks in the marshland? Her hair is golden, they say, threaded with yellow flowers, and she walks among the pools of the Gladden, singing songs of sorrow. Even when I was a young girl, I heard the stories of her and strayed further from my home than I ought to in hopes of seeing her. But it was for nothing. I convinced myself that the horse folk that lived in these lands long ago, from whom came the first stories of the maiden, must have mistaken the light on the water for her golden hair, the breath of the wind and the sound of her song. I gave up seeking her, and then I saw a woman grown, with a family to look after, and I left tales of the maiden to my childhood. Horse folk. The Rohirrim, perhaps, they might be talking about? Yeah, well, they will see anything with golden hair, probably, if we're talking about the Rohirrim. It could have just been a shield maiden going around, right? Well, of course, they wouldn't be called the. Whatever. Yes, but there is magic in the Vale, stranger. One afternoon, while I sought wildflowers among the river bank, I caught out of doors too late. Yes, the sun went down, and as the last of the light faded, I saw her standing among the Gladdens. Still as a statue she was, but as I sought to look at her closely, a great drowsiness fell upon me. I blinked my eyes to clear away the fog, but then she was gone. I searched among the pools until it was too dark to see, at which point I had returned to Hutvis. It would not be safe to remain in the bog, for when, as now, there are sometimes monsters about, I have not seen her again, but it lightens my heart to know that the Maiden of the Gladden is out there somewhere singing. This is how I know the tales of her are true. Perhaps there is truth in the other tales of my people as well. Well, now I have seen the maidens of the Withy Window and the maidens of the rivers down to the south, down in Gondor. So a river maiden in this area certainly shouldn't be all that strange to run into, right? Right. Hello there, stranger. I was wondering if you could tell me of any of the tales that are about in these lands.
For how long have my people lived by the side of the wood? Long years indeed.
Yes, long years, for true deeds have vanished into the haze of memory, taking on the feel of legend or myth. Doubt not that even the most fantastical of these tales must hold some truth within its marrow. Or do you count yourself brave enough to search for Vagari, the ghostly wanderer of the Gladden? Marhariu, the horse folk did, and he was forever changed. Ooh. Long ago, the horse folk of Rovanian knew the hardships of war, and they came to the vales of Anduin in desperate need. The woodmen that lived in the vales at the time gave them food and shelter. In return, the horse folk raised no king and demanded no fealty. Instead, they lived as neighbors to the woodmen, building a fortress of stone and timber on the island south of the old ford. This redoubt they named Avabarg, and it housed the horse folk of several generations. But they were never comfortable within the confines, and they desired a home more to their liking. While the horse folks remained in the vales, the woodmen told them of Vagari, a spectral figure that stalked among the fens by the light of the moon. The sight of him filled my people with dread, and they fled in terror. But the horsefolk were bold, and their blood ran hot. Mer- Marharu, son of the chief, went in search of the Vagari. He was not seen for a year and a day, and when he finally returned, his hair was stricken white. He was clad in pale garments instead of his armor, and there was a darkness in his eyes that had not been there before. He claimed to have met the Wanderer and followed him for a time, but whenever he tried to speak of him, the spectral figure faded from view, only to reappear further up ahead in the mist. His memory failed in the recounting of what befell him, and he spoke with confusion of an empty dwarf hold and of sorrowful song. Until the end of his days, Marharu insisted that he followed the wanderer for only a short time. He could not explain his long disappearance. The horsefolk, believing him to be ensorcelled, named him Winter Hair, and shunned him as a source of ill fortune. He dwelt in a hut on the edge of the Gladden, and lived to be an old man. But one day his hut was found empty, and no one could say what happened to him. Listen to the warnings of Marsharo Winterhair Pineleaf. If you encountered Vagari the Wanderer among the mists, turn and flee before it is too late for you. That reminds me of some tales of the southern Misty Mountains, where there are these light balls that make you think you're seeing something that's not there, and they lead you astray. That sounds like a story of that sort to me. But who can tell? Who can tell? That was an interesting set of tales.
Did you enjoy hearing my people's myths and legends?
Yeah, some of them were very interesting. Yes, I'm pleased that the bear folk came to our aid during the recent battle, for if they had not and my people were slain, these traditions would surely vanish with us. Thank you for helping us in the hunt, my friend. I look forward to seeing you again and hearing your own stories of the wider world as you listen to ours. Farewell, and good fortune to you. All right. Very well. Now, let us see about the other set of provisions. I am back.
Did you find Harscore? And what of the provisions?
I found Harskor. He is alive, though wounded. I've managed to get some of the provisions back, and I've killed quite a number of the orcs. What do you say about that? Oh, thank you! Our need is great, but this is more than enough for now, Pineleaf. I will see it to it that none of the Hootfeasts go hungry tonight. Ah, but I must admit, those orcs sound more cunning than most. If we were meant to become the unwilling meals, I'm glad they've been driven out of our land. Let the skin changers and elves see to them, I think. Well, all right.
If only that were the end of our troubles.
Unfortunately, there are other troubles. A few of my people dwell in a village in the hill called Triubad. All who dwell there are woodsmen, and here in the Narrows such a skill is very valuable. I tasked my people in Theobad to deliver a supply of lumber and hides to Hutviz with great haste. It is urgent that our fences be repaired and our roofs mended, but I have heard naught of the people of Triobad in days. If some trouble has come to Triobad, my people there may be in dire need. I would ask that you follow the road to Triobad and learn what has happened. Very well. Find some missing woodsmen. Okay, and I also have to return some tolls. If I understand his description, Triobad should be up this way somewhere. Oh, hello. Hello there. I've been asked to investigate some trouble.
The fears here They have returned.
I do not know you, traveler, but you would be wise to turn back. The Thrissir, they've returned. Okay, who exactly are the Thrissir? They were wood demons of legend, or so I thought. It is said that the elves long ago drove them from the forest. But how have they now come here in the vales? A shadow must still dwell in the forest. My cousin Willibald and I only narrowly escaped the Thrissir at Thriabad, but now they have few hides and even less lumber left to bring to the chieftain. A great tree demon followed in the wake of the Thrissir, and though I tried to hew it, it wandered away with my axe still embedded in its trunk. That is the axe of my father and my father's father, and now I have failed them, and it is kept by a demon. But if you do not fear the Thracier as we do, perhaps you could reclaim what was lost to Threabod. Will you do this for me? Let's see. So find some lumber and some hides, and probably an axe.
It was said in tales of old that the Thyrsier could not truly be slain. Only when they were put to flame could their evil be ended.
Perhaps Triabad is lost, but the wood demons cannot come to Hootfeast. They must be stopped, and I believe I know how it can be achieved. These wood demons, they're trolls, aren't they? Okay, yes, it was said in tales of old that the Thracier could not truly be slain. If one of those wood demons fell to the axe, its smoldering remains would give rise to more of its kind. Only when they are put to flame would the evil be ended. Demons they may be, but they are demons wrought of wood, and that means they must fear fire. If you're to overcome the wood demons, you must swiftly burn their remains after defeating them. For each of our sakes, let us hope that the tale spoke true. Unless, of course, they don't really revive at all, which we also find in my book. But if you want me to burn them, fine. What do you say?
Some believe the forest has become angry with us, but I say it is the work of the wood demons. I have heard enough tales of the Thyrsier to know their sap runs with blight.
Yes, I thought such sorrowful days were behind us, Pineleaf. But now, what am I to think of it? In mere days, all of our livestock was taken by the cruel sickness. Some believe the forest has become angry with us, but I say it's the work of the wood demons. I do not know if the blight lingers in the dead, but if it can spread, it must be prevented. I would ask that you burn the remains of the fallen livestock. No more injuries will be done to them by the wood demons. All right. Whee! Are these wood demons some wood trolls or are they something else? And what do I see moving in the distance? And will I be able to recover the items that were lost? We'll have to find that out in the next episode of Pineleaf in the North Kingdoms.